What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Python one-day build. This is the series where I show you how to build cool Python projects that you can do in one day or less. So today we're going to be building a web scraper that scrapes various programming YouTube accounts for their top videos. So here is the output for what we will be building today. As you can see, we have the programming channel URL, and then we have the top 10 videos here. And for each video, we have the title, we have the number of views, we have when it was posted, how long ago, and we have the URL to that video. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is create a virtual environment. This is a Python project, so you will need that to keep your dependencies for this project separate from every other project on your machine. Secondly, you can create a Python file at that same level. So for me, I'm calling that main.py. And that is the setup we need for this project. So the first thing we need to do is import WebDriver from Selenium. So we can say from Selenium import WebDriver. And both of these you will need to download. So again, you can go to the link in the description, or you can hit the card that is on the video right now to download Selenium and WebDriver. Once you have both of those downloaded, we need to install that. So we will say pip install Selenium. Make sure your virtual environment is activated. Secondly, we'll be using BeautifulSoup to scrape our data. So we can say from bs4 import BeautifulSoup. Make sure capital B and capital S. And again, we need to install that via pip. So we can say pip install BeautifulSoup 4, I believe. So the first thing that I'm going to do is define my main method. So we'll say def main. And here we can simply make a driver variable and set that equal to WebDriver.Chrome. And then we can test that out by saying driver.get. Let's pass in the YouTube URL. So we'll say https://youtube.com. Perfect. And then we need to call that method. So we'll go down below here and we'll say main. So now when we run this Python program, it will call the main method and it should get this URL. So let's test that and see if it works. So we'll say python main.py. And there we go. As we see, it goes to YouTube and then closes out. Perfect. So we don't want to go to YouTube, right? We want to go to various programming channels. So we want to store those programming channels as their URL. We can do that in a list. So we'll say URLs is equal to a list. And then instead of getting YouTube, we can just get the URLs. So for example, we can get the first URL. So for testing purposes, we're only going to put one URL in the list. So let's go find a channel we can start off with. And we can copy this URL here. But we don't want to go to their home page, right? We want to go to their videos page. So the URL we really want is this here, /videos. But we can go a step further, because what are we trying to do here? We're trying to get the most popular videos. There's a couple ways to do that. We see this sort by button here, right? So we could use Selenium to click on this button and then click and sort by most popular. But what I realize is when we do that, the URL up here actually changes. It changes to this view equals sort by sort equals P, which you can assume that is popular, and then it's grid flow. So what we can do is we can actually grab this URL here and simply pass in the channel identifier string. So I'm going to copy this here and I'm going to paste that into here. But like I said, we don't want just a big list of URLs like that. So what we can do is use format, and here we'll pass in that, and then we can go here. This right here is the channel identifier, so we'll copy that, and then we'll simply put these braces like that, come up here, paste that up there, And then down here, we want to go to this URL, and we'll say .format. We'll pass in URLs 0. So we'll pass in the URLs list and the first element. So now when we get this URL here, it should go to this page. So the next thing we want to do is we want to take all of this content and transform it into a BeautifulSoup object. So we can run queries against that and grab data that we want. So first, let's grab the content of the page, strip all the white space, and store that in a variable called content. So we can say content is equal to driver.page source. We'll say dot encode. We'll pass in UTF-8, then we'll say dot strip. So that stores all the content in the page. It encodes it and it strips it of the white space in this variable content. And then we can make that content variable into a BeautifulSoup object. For that, we can say soup is equal to BeautifulSoup. And then here, it takes in a couple of parameters. So the first is the data, so we'll say content. Then we're also going to pass in this LXML. And this is the parser. So BeautifulSoup can parse through this content. So we have to install this. So let's open up our terminal again. Make sure the virtual environment is activated. We'll say pimp install LXML, just like that. Perfect. And I want to mention that my requirements are already satisfied because I've installed all of this into my virtual environment already. And that's why I didn't recreate a new one in the beginning. So now that we have this, we're ready to run some queries and grab data from this soup object. So let's look at the data that we want to find. We want to find the titles, the views, and how long ago it was posted. So let's inspect the source code behind this. So if we look over here, we can see that the title is in a tag A with this ID. So I'm going to copy that ID, and with BeautifulSoup, we can search for specific tags. So we can say titles, meaning the video titles, are equal to soup dot, we have this find all method. We can pass in the A tag, and we can pass in ID is equal to video title. So this will look for all A tags on the page where the ID is equal to video title. And that should grab all of these titles here. So let's print that out and see what we get. So we'll print out titles. Let's run this. Grabs all the titles, and let's see. Okay, perfect. Okay, so as you just saw, we can print all those titles, but we get a lot more than just the title. We're getting the HTML as well. So what we can do is let's loop through each title. So we'll say for title and titles, and we'll print title.text. And .text should allow us to extract only the text from that. So let's comment out this, and let's run it again, and hope that we only get the title text. Okay, there we go. So, all right, perfect. As you can see, now we have a list of all of the titles. And if you go back up to the top where we ran this, let's see, here we go. Learn Python full course for beginners. That is indeed the first one, SQL. There we go, JavaScript. Okay, so it looks good. So that's all the titles. So what I'm going to do is erase all of this. We'll loop through and get the data we need in a little bit. But now we want to focus on getting the other data. So we want the views and how long ago it was, and the URL. So let's get the views. So let's say views is equal to soup.findAll. And we're going to do something similar to what we did up here. So let's inspect the views. And it looks like they're in a span tag with this class. So luckily for us, we can search by class name as well. So let's copy that. And we'll say views. We want to find all span tags with a class. Make sure you put the underscore after that. with a class of this, a style scope YTD grid video renderer. This should find all of the views. So let's test that out. We'll do what we did with titles, and we'll say for view in views, print view.text. There we go. Let's run it, and hopefully we get all of the views, just like we did text. All right, here we go. So it looks like we're getting the views, but what's interesting is we're also getting how long ago that was posted. And this is actually good and bad. Well, I guess it's not really bad. It's just we could get the duration and how long ago it was posted separately, but by having it together will make it a little bit difficult when we're looping through and printing this all out, as you will soon see. But so just keep in mind that the views and the duration of how long ago it was posted are next to each other. So these correspond to the first video, 15 million views 1 year ago, 15 million 1 year ago. This is the second, 3.9 million 1 year ago, and then 3.5 1 year. So video 1, 2, 3, and so on. Okay, so that's the views and the how long ago it was posted. And then lastly, we just need the URLs. So we'll say URLs are equal to soup.findAll, just like what we've been doing. And let's go back here. So when we inspect here, okay, so here we go. So we see we have an A tag. We can use the same video title as before, and we can extract the href. So if you recall, when we printed out this data here in the beginning of this video, we got all that stuff with the HTML. We got href in here because we were getting all of this information. So we can extract the href. So what I'm going to do is this is going to be the same as up here. So we're going to say find all A, where ID is equal to video title. And then when we loop through the URLs, we can extract the href from that. I'm actually going to call this video URLs. There we go. So the last step is to simply print all this information out in a nice view, as you saw when I demoed how this works. So let's go down here, and we can say print. And the first thing we want to print is the channel name. So let's say channel. And then we can actually use some formatting here. So we'll say .format, and we'll pass in the URLs 0. And then down here, this is where the magic is really going to happen. We're going to print a long string and use formatting to enter in the title, the views, and all that stuff. So first, let's say /n. Let's get a new line. And then we're going to leave a space for the title. Then we'll do /t. Then we'll leave a space for the views, another /t, then we'll leave a space for the duration of how long ago it was posted, and then one more /t, and this will be the URL. So now let's format this. So in order to print out each of them, this will have to be in a loop of its own. So what I'm going to do is, if you recall the titles we printed out, where are those? Here we go. So we can loop through each title, print out those, and then inside there we can use indexing with variables I and j to print out the corresponding views and how long ago it was posted. So let me write down what I'm talking about and I'll explain it. So first we'll say for title in titles. And what I'm going to do here is we don't want all those titles. I just want the first 10 titles. So I can do something like this. Oops. And then we're going to print those out. So this will execute 10 times, each time printing out another title. So the first thing we want is to print out the title. And we want the text of that. And that will go right here. Next, we want to print out the views. So we have this here, and we want to print out the views, and we need an index of that dot text. And then we also, for the how long ago it was, that was also in views. So we also need an index for that dot text. So up here we're going to say I is equal to 0. This will be for the views and in time, right? So we're going to print out views I dot text. So this will print out when it first runs this right here, because this view is in the 0 index, right? Then this in the 1 index, index 1 also corresponds to the first video. So we want to print out views I plus 1 dot text. So when you print this, it will print out the first title and it'll print out the right views. Now the next time we run this, we need to increment this I variable, not by 1, because then it would start here, but by 2, so it starts here. So after this, we can say I plus equal to 2. So then the next title, it will, so I when it first runs is 0. And then when it runs the second time, it will go to 2, which is this index. So it will always start on the views. Right? So that's good. And then the last thing we need is the URL. So for that, we can say video URLs. And again, we need an index, but we can't use I because that's incrementing by 2 each time. The URLs increment by 1. So let's do another variable, j. And we'll say j is equal to 0. This will be for the URLs, and increment j by 1. And then we don't want all of what's in this list here. We want the URL. We want the href, right? So we can say .get, and we can pass in the href. That will print out the href of that. And when we run this, we're going to notice that the href is actually just /watch. So we want to be able to click that href, right? So before this, we're going to add the standard YouTube URL. So that would be https://www.youtube.com, and then the href. So it'll say https:// all this stuff. Then I'll do this href here. So that way you can click on the video in the output. So let's give this a go, and hopefully this should print out the first 10 videos in free CodeCamp's most popular videos, and it should give us the title, the views, how long it was posted, and the URL. So let's see if that works. Okay, here we go. So we got some information. This makes this a little smaller so we can see all of it. And as you can see, we're getting the title, we're getting the views, we're getting how long ago it was, and the URL. So let's click this and see if it brings us to that video.
In this course,
okay, there we go. We learned Python, number of views, and how long it was ago. It looks like it corresponds. So that looks like it worked. So the next thing to do now is, well, we have to add more URLs to our list and loop through all of them and do the same thing, which will be easy. And then secondly, let's change this URL up here because this is supposed to be clickable as well. So we need to add this stuff in front of it as well so we can click that. So let's add those two things. So up here, where we're printing out the channel URL, we can say same thing here actually. So we'll copy this. And then if I recall, there was no slash, so let's add a slash. And then we need to wrap all of this inside a loop with the rest of our URLs. So let's say for URL in the list URLs, we need to now indent, all of this, and then we need to change a couple things here. So when we're grabbing the URLs, we don't want indexing anymore. We just want to grab the URL that we're currently on, and then same for down here. Okay, and then that indexing is still fine. So that's all good. So now if we run this, it will work, but it will just do it for the one channel. So let me go ahead and grab some more programming channels so we can test this on a bunch of them. Okay, and I'm noticing that when I copied and pasted a bunch of the URLs, some of them are /channel and some of them are /user. So that's going to make it a little complicated down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take out all of this, and we'll just leave the entire URL here. And then we still need this here. And then since we made this change, we need to go down here and we just need that. We don't need the prefixing anymore because we already have it in here. So this should all work now. Just to recap, we have our list of URLs. We have our Chrome WebDriver, and we're looping through each URL in this list. We're going to the videos page, sorting it by most popular. We're grabbing the content and putting it in this variable. We are then transforming it into a BeautifulSoup object. Then we are grabbing the titles, the views, and the URLs by using methods that BeautifulSoup gives us. And then we are looping through that data and printing it out in a nice way using the Python format. Let's give this a run and see if it works. All right, there we go. So it loops through all of them, and it looks like we have our data. Just to check, let's randomly click on one. How to make money with code. 599K views 3 months ago. Let's see if this gets us to the right one. All right, there we go. Looks like it worked. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe for more Python one-day builds.